I sometimes will sleep with it in because the heat from my head at night, I feel like helps my scalp sort of absorb it better. But oil actually lifts oil and it also exfoliates. So if you do it properly and you really scrub your scalp, it's going to exfoliate off all of that dead skin there. And then when you go in to cleanse your scalp with a shampoo, you're going to cleanse away all of that sort of dirt and grime that's stuck on the scalp that's causing dandruff.
I'm so excited to be here today because we have such an amazing guest on that we've been trying to get on for a while. And I'm so excited it finally happened. Amber, you and I met recently, and you told me your whole story, and I was so inspired by you. And I really wanted to have you on to share it with other women, but also like this community that Mary and I have built. So just real quick, just wanted to introduce you, and then I'll turn it over to you so you can tell us more about this story. Amber is a seasoned beauty industry professional with over 20 years of experience, a degree in business management, and a lifelong passion for helping others feel beautiful inside and out. As the founder of Amber Holistic Hair Studio in Los Angeles, she blends her deep expertise in hair artistry with a commitment to clean, low toxic, and non toxic beauty, using only products that are safe as they are effective. Her salon is more than just a space for transformation, it's a sanctuary for healing, consciousness, and connection. And I can say that after being there, that is absolutely the vibe I got. And I was just so excited to find you. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I will be coming to you soon.
Well, I will be very excited to have you in there. It was definitely a passion project that took quite some time. I began building out the salon in 2021, kind of like in the midst of COVID shutdowns and everything, which ended up being kind of like the best time to sort of work on a project like that because salons were
Yeah.
closed for quite some time on and off while I was doing all the planning and the build out. So it all kind of worked out. But shortly before we opened, actually a day before we opened, I was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer. So I already was opening up a salon that was going to be, a low tox, non toxic salon using, ammonia free, PPD free, resorcinol free hair color, and also clean hair products. But then this kind of just pushed me into that whole world a little bit more than I already was. I previously had PCOS, so I had been sort of searching, for things that might help me feel better. And I definitely, that's like when my passion for clean beauty and eating healthy and, exercising and all of that sort of began.
Yeah, I find that so interesting because, like you said, the day before you opened the salon, you found out about that,
Hmm.
right? But was there anything before then that kind of inspired you to even think of having a non toxic salon? Like, was there a turning point that kind of made you question conventional hair care?
I would say, my journey with PCOS was like
Mm.
quite a few years and I wasn't feeling great. And I, had read a lot about endocrine disruptors, our hormones, how we can sort of naturally try to regulate them. I was doing acupuncture, all of the things. And I felt like kind of the last sort of ditch effort thing that I needed to tackle was sort of the toxins in my everyday life. And by everyday life, that meant like every single day I went to work, I was using these toxic
Mm.
products, whether it was hair color or the styling products or the aerosol spray that we spray all day long and then inhale. And I think during COVID, it kind of like gave me the time to just like press pause. I wasn't able to work. And so I kind of just like was hanging out at home in quarantine and
Mm.
all I had to do was read. So I started reading up on a lot of products and, what I should be using, what I shouldn't be using. And then I started researching different product lines.
Mm.
And ordered, a few of each thing and started testing things and playing around with it in my backyard on my friends.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're really wanting to hear about your story too, and just give our listeners more education about clean beauty, and especially in regards to non-toxic hair care, because it's so important. You mentioned endocrine disruption, and I have a number of girlfriends who work in salons, and I always think about how, number
Mm-hmm.
one, they're wearing gloves, they're breathing this in, and how our scalp is so porous. Like when you're applying color,
Absolutely.
I wonder about that. Can you tell us just a little bit more about what sort of benefits we could see by switching to a healthier color, and anything more about those products too in
Yeah.
regards to endocrine disruption, especially?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think there's a lot of greenwashing in the industry,
Mm.
not
Mm.
just with hair care, but with, skincare, with makeup, with everything. People call the salon all the time and they're like, "Oh, I want to come get my hair done there because you use organic hair color." And I always have to educate the client and say, unfortunately, there is no organic hair color yet. And there are lots of organic, you know, properties that go into a lot of things that have chemicals in them that actually like aren't good for us, like arsenic, for example. Like, that's an organic property, definitely not good for us. Um, so you have to be really careful also about the product lines that you're using. Um, we in the salon use Original Mineral, which is an ammonia-free, PPD-free, and resorcinol-free color line. It's been around for quite some time. It's created in Italy, but it's an Australian company. I've been working with them for quite a while. I previously had played around with a few other color lines, and I just wasn't super happy with the results. I think a lot of people, luckily, are moving in that direction. As far as lightener goes, that's also, doing highlights. There are ways that we can lift your hair color without using lightener, which is essentially bleach. But um, usually you have to use some form of bleach in order to lift the color and give someone highlights. So we have an ammonia-free lightener from a company called Natural Leak, and they have a really, really beautiful um, product line that we can use for doing highlights. It has no scent. It lifts really beautifully. I think there's a misconception with people like, oh, if we use ammonia-free lightener to give me highlights, it's not going to work. And that's just not true. It's just, it takes a little bit more time, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell clients like slow and steady wins the race. Just remember that. And then we also do have a very low ammonia lightener that we can use for highlights for people who have really, really dark hair, but it's such a low amount of ammonia that it's not going to, smell to the client. And we, as, the service providers, won't be inhaling those fumes as much. So, like, there are a lot of options out there for us to use on people. It's just kind of figuring out what works and doesn't work. So there are a lot of safe options when it comes to hair color. When it comes to like styling products, there's so many to choose from now, which is amazing. I love supporting, the smaller brands, the family owned companies. So in my salon, we carry Innersense Organic Beauty, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. Amazing for all hair types. They're a family owned company up in Northern California. They have a really beautiful story about how they came about, and they have a great product line. So we carry all of their products in our salon.
I actually didn't
And
know that, Amber. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah,
'Cause
no,
when you said the
absolutely.
name, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was just gifted those products." And I
Hmm.
had never heard of them before. And I was like, "What is this?" But they
Yeah,
smell amazing
amazing.
without like being artificial fragrance, you know?
Right. There's no artificial fragrance. They use organic essential oils to make
Oh.
all their fragrance. And it's like the cleanest of clean hair products right now. And there's so much transparency with their brand. And they treat, all of their customers so well. If you ever have a question, you can call them. They're great.
Wow.
Um, People have allergies to a lot of chemicals that are in hair products and hair colors. So when people start getting into using more natural stuff, they think they won't have a reaction. But sometimes I myself am allergic to almond oil. So I have to be
Mm.
careful. Almond oil is actually in a lot of hair products. So I always have to be careful and ask my clients, like, do you have a nut allergy? Do you have an allergy to anything that you're aware of that's natural?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. But yeah, we love their product line. And then we also use Rose, which is spelled ROZ, which is also, it's a local LA hairstylist who created that line. And then Najo, which might be one of my all-time favorites. Nina, a friend of mine, created it. And she's got this like gorgeous, thick, long, curly, luscious Lebanese hair.
Mm.
And she has put so much time into researching how to get people thick, healthy hair and scalps. So she's all about oiling your scalp, oiling your hair,
Mm.
and doing it with clean ingredients,
Wow.
which I absolutely love.
That's awesome. You had
Yeah.
mentioned prior that obviously the organic doesn't exist in the hair world, right? Like obviously it does with food.
Yet.
What about yet? Exactly. What about the other terms that people kind of throw out there, like clean or non-toxic? Like, are those regulated at all?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
So I use the terms low tox for hair color because there is no non-toxic hair color out there
Mm.
at all. There are some that are cleaner than others. There are some that sort of meet somewhere in the middle. But even like the cleanest hair color lines truly can't say that they're non-toxic because they have to use some sort of agent in there to open up the cuticle of the hair for the color or the lightener to do its job. Um, Same thing with like smoothing treatments, Brazilian blowouts. We were doing those for years and like inhaling formaldehyde, which is
Ugh.
wild to me. And it took so many years for that to, become illegal. And just recently, as of this year, they banned formaldehyde in smoothing treatments, which is like mind blowing. So, there are cleaner smoothing treatments that you can do, but it comes, offering those treatments, it comes with a lot of education for the client. Like, because there's no formaldehyde, there's not that preservative in this product to make your hairpin straight.
Mm.
Um, so it's kind of, we offer a lot of cleaner options. Um, and also offer some non-toxic options, like the Innersense products. There's nothing in them that is going to be toxic to your system,
Mm.
um, which, makes me feel good about using them all day, every day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I'm taking notes. This is
Yeah.
awesome. I love all the recommendations. I need more of them in my life.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of agents added, especially to skincare, like propylene glycol, that allows
Yeah.
the fragrance and the chemicals to actually penetrate your skin. And since people are making such an effort these days to reduce their toxic load with cleaning products, body care products, hair care products,
Mm-hmm.
I think I really like how much research and care you've put into even figuring out lower chemicals, just anywhere in our lives that we can make these exceptions for using something that would be a less toxic alternative. All of that adds up, right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, no one can truly live a non-toxic life, right?
totally, yeah.
But like, we can do our best to reduce our toxic load on a daily basis. And I kind of have like my list of like biggest offenders, is,
Oh, I'd
kind of
love
what
for
I
you to
call
share
it.
that with
And
us.
so parabens, phthalates,
Yeah.
and sulfates. These
Yeah,
are
yeah.
ones that we've heard
Mm.
about quite a bit, right? I would say most products will list on the bottle now paraben free, phthalate free, sulfate free, right? So parabens, I'm pretty sure we all know what those are, but those are just, synthetic preservatives like we were talking about. Those, when they build up in your system, can mimic estrogen in our bodies. It's even been found in breast tissue. And then phthalates are just sort of like the hidden word for fragrance. That can mess with our hormones and our fertility as well. And then sulfates are just sort of like the harsher foaming agent. So they used to be in every shampoo, that was known. And then slowly they started taking that out because they realized like we don't need to strip the hair and the scalp, as much as we were. Like people don't need that thick lather. We need to exfoliate our scalp, yes, but we don't need it to be squeaky clean like that. It just needs to be clean enough to breathe, right? And that's what helps promote a healthy scalp and, healthy hair growth. So, sulfates can cause some irritation. And then formaldehyde, which is what, we were talking about a little bit earlier, that's also, a preservative that was found in most smoothing treatments. That can disrupt our endocrine system. It's been known to cause cancers, primarily, lung cancer. There's a lot of lawsuits going on right now with hairstylists who were diagnosed with lung cancer after years and years and years of doing keratin treatments.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes. And then, synthetic fragrance that can be labeled as fragrance, perfume, anything like that. If it doesn't say, organic fragrance or organic essential oils, you might want to be a little bit worried if it has a strong scent to it. I try and stay away from that as much as I can. Body lotions, even makeup. Everyday makeup has fragrance. Why do we need fragrance in our makeup? We don't.
It's so true.
And then silicone, silicones in moderation, I'm like okay with it. If someone has an event and I'm only putting it on the hair and if it's not getting onto, their scalp. But it can clog your follicles. It can cause buildup over time on the hair and on the scalp. And then sometimes, depending on the product, I would just question it because it can have other sort of byproducts in it that we just know very little about. It's kind of a controversial ingredient in products right now because people are like, oh, well, my hair doesn't get smooth if it doesn't have silicone in the serum. There are ways. It's just, it's a learning curve. And as, a hairstylist, it's my job to educate my clients how to do that.
Yeah, I'm curious, what is your advice for someone who is looking to kind of revamp their hair care routine? If there was only one product in their routine that they had to swap, what would that be?
I would start with any aerosol spray. Throw out your aerosol spray. There are a few lines now that have aerosol sprays that use like a coconut. Somehow they were able to make like a propellant out of coconut, and that's actually safe. But the majority of everyday products that you are going to buy from, the drugstore or Sephora or Ulta, none of those are safe. So throw away your aerosol cans of spray, no more of the dry shampoo in the aerosol can or
My favorite.
hairspray. There's so many other options that are really, that are amazing. They perform so, so well.
Okay.
But it's a little bit of a learning curve. There's like powders that you can shake and dust into your hair. Innersense has a really interesting one that I absolutely love. And it's actually a foam to powder type of product. It's called Refresh. You only need a little bit. And you just like put it in your hand, like one pump of it, rub your hands together and kind of like massage it into your scalp wherever you're oily. And then I like to just kind of like re-blow dry that section a little bit. I also will use that like same day I'm washing someone's hair because it'll give a little extra volume, but then you have that powder in there that'll absorb the oil as it's produced, which is a
Oh,
hot little tip.
yeah.
Um, but I would say toss those aerosol cans and start
Okay.
experimenting with some other products.
And
Well,
what's the main
and
ingredient in that aerosol can that is why you're recommending to that?
So alcohol and butane. So alcohol is in a lot of products, right? It's kind of like a stabilizer for things, but butane is in most aerosol sprays and they'll hide it in like a few different names. But if you ever see butane at the end of a very long word that you probably have no idea what it is, it's not safe. I would toss it.
Wow.
Um, so it's in most things, unfortunately. I
and
think we're steering away from it eventually.
yeah, it seems like
Hopefully.
in high school I used to light those on fire with those.
Right?
Remember that? What was that old school hairspray called? Like
Aquanet.
Aquanet.
Aquanet. Yeah, kind of a
Yes.
funny tidbit there, but I was
Uh,
I was thinking for a long time I was hearing about the no poo method,
Mm.
and there was a product line called Moroccan method, I think it was, and you hear
mhm.
all about people using baking soda and apple cider vinegar to restore pH and close the follicles, open the follicles, which I think is actually can be quite damaging over time. But what's your take on the no poo method?
I am so glad you brought this up. I have a lot to say about it. Okay, so interesting little fact. I had a client come in who had been doing the apple cider vinegar rinses in her hair for who knows how long, right? She has this like fine, very fragile hair, but I can tell it has like the potential to be really beautiful and healthy. And I'm confused by the fact that it's not because nothing that she was doing previously color wise was at all something that would indicate her hair should feel this way. So I go down the list of things. I'm like, okay, do you have a shower filter? What products are you using? We go down the whole list. And then she discloses to me, like, oh, I'm doing the apple cider vinegar rinses. I have not been shampooing my hair at all. And so I was like, oh, why are you doing that? And she goes, oh, well, my old hairstylist told me to do it. And I was like, okay. And like, how do you feel like your hair feels? And she was like, I mean, I don't love the way my hair feels. But also, I haven't been able to get as blonde as I would like to be for quite some time now. I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So I did a clarifying treatment on her, and a conditioning treatment before I highlighted her that day. I was able to pull out, and this is just my theory, I am not a chemist, but I was able to pull out what looked like so much pigment, potentially from apple cider vinegar,
Oh
that had
wow.
just like stained the hair shaft of her hair and was making her hair so brassy. We were
Wow.
able to pull all of that out, lifted her to a beautiful blonde. Her hair felt great after the treatment. After the highlighting, I did another treatment after highlighting her. And then I said to her, like, let's do a science experiment. Do not use any apple cider vinegar on your hair this time. Sent her home with all the products that I know and trust. She used those. She came in the next time. Her hair was stunning. It
Mm.
was so beautiful.
Wow.
I think everyone wants to try and use like these natural remedies for things, and there's sort of like a time and place for them, right?
Mm.
And like apple cider vinegar should not be going in our hair unless it's like already in a product that was designed to be put in your hair, right? So, like making these at home concoctions, like we're not going to have the right amount of anything in it
Yeah.
to sort of put that in our hair or on our scalp and have any sort of good experience with it.
Yeah.
I had another client recently go to Costa Rica and she went swimming. She's got beautiful blonde hair. She went swimming and it turned green. So then she was like, oh, so then I went out and I bought a purple shampoo and then I put that in my hair. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. Because like green and purple, that's not going to mix well.
Oh, no.
Her blonde hair just looked, muddy and drab. And then, she still hadn't reached out to me. So then she goes, so then I read online, try baking soda. So she like covers her hair in baking soda, does this like emulsifying wash with it. And then she finally reaches out to me. She's like, my hair's so dried out. It's like this muddy color. I don't know what to do. And I was like, you have to just stop.
Yeah.
When you get home, come in and see me.
Wow.
We'll do a little bit of a clarifying treatment on you. We'll hopefully be able to pull all of that out. And, she came in, we did that, and we did a deep conditioning treatment on her, and it was fine. So I just try and tell people, like, let's not try these at home sort of remedies. The co-washing, I'm not a huge fan of.
Oh, I actually do that. I do it once a week.
How often do you shampoo?
Once a week. So I'll shampoo and then like 3 or 4 days later, I do a co-wash because my hair is so dry and it really has helped. And then, so once a week co-wash, once a week washing. But a lot of people just replace the co-washing altogether. And that I think would cause horrible buildup too.
Yes. So, depending on your hair and scalp.
Oh yeah, we should explain.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
So co-washing is a conditioning wash. So you get in the shower, you wet your hair down. Instead of shampooing, you're using conditioner. And you're still supposed to scrub your scalp. You're still supposed to exfoliate it, pretend as if you're shampooing it, and then rinse it out. Okay. So, for people who have drier hair, really, really curly, porous hair, or someone who has, a really dry scalp, it can be a nice option, but it should not, as you said, Mary, it should not replace shampooing your hair.
Yeah, totally.
Because your scalp needs that exfoliation. It needs oxygen. It needs to breathe. And if you're just constantly putting this, heavy moisturizing conditioner on the scalp, your follicles are going to clog over time. It'd be like constantly on our face, only moisturizing, or
that's
only
a good
using
analogy.
coconut oil. Yeah, or only using like coconut oil. I love using coconut oil on my face to like remove my makeup and then I wash my face. But it would be like only ever using coconut oil on my face and then putting moisturizer on top of it. Like your pores are going to get clogged and not breathe, right? So it definitely has its time and place. Mary, I'm fine with you doing a co-wash once a week.
Thank you. Well, no, just like you said, and I think so. The idea is that the qualities of the conditioner adhere to the dirt and help. Yep. But yes, I totally agree. I've done a lot of reading about this, and you can't substitute anything for using a shampoo that actually is pH balanced properly. And we were talking about no poo and people using baking soda and apple cider vinegar, and that's supposed to balance the pH, but you really can't achieve that, I don't think, unless you have an actual product, is my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, like, I had a family member who was doing the apple cider vinegar rinses for quite some time, and she has like, beautiful silver gray hair. Over time, her gray started yellowing and it felt really dry. And it also smells, right? So who wants to walk around smelling like vinegar? Not me.
Do you think it's okay? Because I've recommended it to my clients who have dandruff because apparently it helps remove buildup. And do you think it's okay to use it diluted aside along with, let's say, your shampoo and conditioner treatment, not as a replacement for, but just occasionally to like address buildup or to balance like a dandruffy scalp? So you don't recommend it at all, or what's your take on that?
I wouldn't. Because it's not like a one size fits all, right? So it depends on, are they coloring their hair? It depends on like, is their hair dry? Is their hair porous? Because it's gonna, our hair is like a sponge, right? A dry sponge. So if our hair is dry and we're spraying something on our scalp, it's gonna soak into our hair too. So, if you're trying to balance the scalp, and it depends on what's going on the scalp. Like people can have dandruff, it can be dry and flaky, it can be oily, they could have psoriasis, they could have eczema. Like there are so many different things that can go on at the scalp level. But I highly recommend to most people to use a scalp mask, and it's actually an oil base, which sounds strange, right? But it's a pre-shampoo mask, and it's my friend Nina created it. It's from the Najo brand. And we carry it in the salon. We also do like customized scalp and hair rituals in the salon, and I have a really awesome
nice
micro mist steamer that uses
Ooh.
like ultrasonic waves to create steam, which helps the products get into your follicles and into your scalp much better than a traditional steamer or using like a heat lamp. But the Najo mask, it's an oil-based mask. You put it on your scalp when your hair and scalp are dry. You massage it in really, really well. You let it sit for, 15 to 20 minutes. We can use the steamer on it sometimes, depending on what's going on the scalp. I sometimes will sleep with it in because the heat from my head at night, I feel like helps my scalp sort of absorb it better. But oil actually lifts oil and it also exfoliates. So if you do it properly and you really scrub your scalp, it's going to exfoliate off all of that dead skin there. And then when you go in to cleanse your scalp with a shampoo, you're going to cleanse away all of that sort of dirt and grime that's stuck on the scalp that's causing dandruff. And then I sometimes like to follow it up, again, depending on the person's scalp, with Innersense has a really amazing scalp scrub that's kind of like pepperminty feeling. It's really refreshing. And I'll use that to really scrub the scalp if they're not, too sensitive. And then, also using a shampoo after that to kind of rinse that all out. And then following up with a conditioner. Some people say, don't put conditioner on the scalp, but I think if you're using something that's like a non-toxic conditioner that's not too heavy, there's no reason why you can't get it on the scalp. Like you can get a little bit on the scalp and massage it in and moisturize it after you've just scrubbed it. That's totally fine. But I would say in most cases, I wouldn't really spray apple cider vinegar.
That's good to know. Yeah. I love the hair mask exfoliator. Sounds great.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
I'm literally buying that after this.
Yeah, I'm Googling it.
You definitely should. Yes. And I just love that she's like a local LA woman. I love supporting small businesses. So, that's why we carry Innersense. They're a larger company, but they're family owned. And then, Najo, she's a one-woman show basically.
Wow.
She's amazing.
So cool.
And all of her products have olive oil in them that she imports from Lebanon, from her family's monastery. So It's also like a very beautiful story. I think I saw on Instagram today that she's like packing her bags right now to go and do like a campaign shoot in Lebanon. And she goes every single year and spends time with the people there who are helping make the product. And it's just really beautiful.
Yeah. I just got chills. That's so awesome. I love stories like that. Amber, I have to ask you before we start to wrap up, because I'm selfishly so curious. I really need a shower filter. What do you recommend? Is there like a particular brand or any criteria?
Right. So I don't want to knock the one that everyone has.
Yeah.
But I'm going to.
Please.
So everyone has bought the Jolie water filter. I am not a huge fan of that one. I personally didn't see a difference. I had one. I didn't see a difference in my hair. I didn't really notice a difference in my client's hair. And I actually I'm looking at my phone really quick because I had one of my stylists send me a list of all of the best shower head water filters. She found.
Also, tell us too, once you find your list, tell us why it's important, especially if you live in like in a really urban area. Why we would need a shower filter?
Well, so lots of different filters. They're, similar to our, under sink water filters, or, some people also will add an extra water filter to their refrigerator. They all filter out different things. My stylist sent me this like third party lab tested article about a bunch of different water filters. And they kind of found that like a lot of them weren't actually filtering out what they should have been. Canopy was like one of the best rated ones. And I truly didn't. Yeah. So Canopy is the company that has the like really small air filter that you can like, I think they have like a really cute, like aesthetically pleasing looking air filter or air purifier that you can like travel with even.
Okay.
I think they make like humidifiers too, but they had the best one that was for skin and hair. And it just depends on where you live and what you're looking to filter out. You know, in LA, I find, I think that like the pipes are just old in LA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like sometimes when like your water comes out, it's kind of like orangey looking, and I'm like, that can't be good.
Depending on what apartment complex I'm visiting a friend at, the water looks differently. It's so
well,
funny.
and it smells too. In like a lot of different areas, you can smell all the chlorine that they put in it.
Chlorine, yep. So chlorine you don't want in your hair. Now that it's summertime, if you are going to be swimming in a pool at all, always wet your hair down outside of the pool, like hop in the shower, hose it down. And I always tell people like actually put in, like a leave-in conditioner of some sort. Because like I was saying earlier, your hair is like a sponge. And, anything wet you put on your hair is going to soak it up. So that's what's going to happen if you jump into a chlorinated pool with dry hair. It's just going to suck up all of that chlorine. So if you can wet it down before you get in the pool, put some conditioner on it, not as much chlorine is going to get into your hair. Still shampoo and conditioner your hair when you get out of the pool. But
okay. Yeah, of course.
It will definitely be a little bit better. Yeah. But yeah, we want to watch out for chlorine, iron, sulfur. I mean, there are so many things in our water that can just build up on our hair. That's the biggest thing. Not that these things are necessarily like bad for our hair, but over time it builds up and it can cause our hair to be brittle because of that.
It's typically like the hard minerals, right? That cause.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like my parents.
I live in Tahoe, where Lake Tahoe is one of the purest lakes in the world. And when I go swimming in the summer and just dunk my head under, I come out and like I hardly wash my hair that much in the summer because it feels so soft. It's really amazing how hard water and these minerals really impact the feel of your hair too.
Well, I think it builds up because we're not able to like cleanse it out properly. Like I think every so often going to the salon and getting like a good clarifying treatment underneath a mister is a good idea.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of like detoxing your scalp and hair a little bit.
Exactly. And that's why, head spas are a big thing right now. It's like a facial for your scalp and hair.
I love
that. It is a really nice treat.
Yeah.
I wish I had space in my salon now to have like a head spa room because it is heavenly.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of those in LA. I've been wanting to like to go to one because
Mhm.
they just exactly. That's the perfect word to describe it. It looks heavenly.
Oh, yeah. No, it's such a treat. It
Oh,
is. And it's great to do every so often. You know,
yeah.
healthy scalp
Yeah.
means healthy hair.
Yeah. For sure. Amber, this has been amazing. I'm just gonna like go outright and say this. I think you're my favorite guest we've had.
Oh,
I love this topic. I think it's so important. I think so many women are gonna find this so beneficial and hopefully implement a lot of these tips and a lot of the products that you mentioned. So thank you so much again.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
you're a wealth of knowledge. Definitely, we both took mental notes.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I definitely really enjoyed nerding out on hair stuff, and I'm just always learning. So I'm sure next time we chat, I'll have some more insights.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Well,
Yeah.
yep. All right. So we usually don't really like super wrap this up. Mary, do you want to say anything? Or Amber, do you have any last minute things you'd like to say that we didn't discuss?
Aside from using, non-toxic products and low-tox products, um, I also would like to encourage women to do their self-breast exams every month. I always tell people feel it on the first as a breast cancer survivor. Even though I've had breast cancer, I still do my breast exam every single month on the first and try to encourage everyone around me to do so. If you don't know how to do it, if you go on Instagram and you follow the Fondle Project, my friend Gina started this nonprofit and she has an awesome, awesome video on her Instagram feed um, and does a very detailed breast exam to show women how to do it.
Amazing.
Yeah, that
And
was a great tip. Wonderful.
yeah,
Yes,
I think
yes,
we're going
yes.
to have you on a second time to discuss that whole journey because we got so excited about the hair.
That's a long journey. Yes, I'd
Yeah.
be happy to.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Yeah,
Thank you.
most definitely.